All right, folks, we are up today, but there are several reasons why you should still be bullish for 2026. We'll go over them. Of course, there is like the American stimulus reason, but there's a lot of stimuluses from around the world, and we'll go over them before we go over the stuff that we've gone over multiple times before. First of all, Japan is preparing a major stimulus. Now, this might just offset that yen carry trade thing because this stimulus is pretty major. So, Japan's government, led by Prime Minister Sana Takashi, has approved a large stimulus package with approximately $135 billion or 21.3 trillion yen to combat inflation and support the economy. Now, I don't really know how a stimulus package worth $135 billion is going to combat inflation, but I'll leave that up to them to figure out. The point is, people are going to get QE money in Japan, and Japan does allow crypto, and they are one of the more major markets. So that's probably going to be some money pouring into crypto. The package includes measures like energy subsidies, cash handouts for parents, that's pretty big, cash people, tax cuts, and spending aimed at key sectors like AI and semiconductors. But the cash handouts and tax cuts might actually affect crypto. So details of this stimulus package: immediate relief, gasoline and utility subsidies, America could use those, cash handouts for parents, around 20,000 yen per child. That's only about $1,000, by the way, or is it $200? I don't remember. I think it's 100 to 1. So yeah, it's maybe like $200 per child. Not very much, but it'll help a little bit. Maybe buy food for a week or so. Temporary tax cuts such as raising the income tax threshold, abolishing the provisional gasoline duty. So that's all going to put extra money in people's pockets. Will it come into crypto? I don't know, but it could help revitalize the overall economy in Japan, and that could get people buying more risk assets. Probably will hopefully offset the yen carry trade, which will have a negative impact on the US market. Support for growth, investment in strategic sectors like semiconductors and artificial intelligence, financing. A portion of the spending will be financed through debt, raising concerns about national debt to ease the burden of rising prices on households and boost economic growth. Concerns. The large stimulus package has worried some analysts about fiscal sustainability and the potential for adding to its already substantial national debt. It has also caused concerns about inflation and the yield's value. Now, I do think the US dollar is going to grow stronger against the yen because of this. I don't really know if that's going to be good for Japan overall. They're trying to boost up the value of the yen, but their economy is pretty pwned anyways, and I don't think there's anything that any prime minister can do to actually fix it because of their inverted population problem. And of course, Takashi has stated her goal is responsible and proactive fiscal policy to address rising prices and provide support for its citizens. The government hopes the package will help stabilize the economy, which saw a contraction in the third quarter. So Japan getting huge QE. But Japan is not the only one. China is also getting big QE as well. Now, China doesn't necessarily allow crypto, but this applies to Hong Kong as well, which does allow crypto. And I bet some party officials and such do actually have crypto. So China is preparing multiple stimulus measures, including a major 1 trillion yuan fiscal package. Now, 1.4 trillion divided by about 7, because the ratio is always somewhere around 7. It's probably slightly less than 7 right now. Still like almost $200 billion. That's a lot. So fiscal and financial stimulus, local government debt. China plans a 1.4 trillion yuan fiscal stimulus package, primarily by allowing local governments to issue new debt to manage their finances. This is intended to support infrastructure projects, jobs, and consumer spending. Consumer spending is the most important thing. If consumer spending goes up, they might have money to buy additional assets, maybe foreign assets. Now, crypto goes with the rest of the market as well. So if China's buying more foreign assets, that means the overall market goes up and crypto will follow the overall market. Just look at today. The overall market's going up and crypto is soaring right now. You have local government debt swaps. The government is expected to help local governments manage their debt through debt swaps, which could save them billions in interest payments. Stock market support. The government has provided RMB 800 billion in liquidity to support the stock market. This includes an RMB 500 billion swap facility for brokers and funds and RMB 300 billion financing facility to encourage stock buybacks. That's more like financial voodoo magic, but it doesn't actually matter all that much because it's generally going to put more money in people's pockets. And if that happens, they might buy extra assets. Now, like I said, China probably won't buy crypto because their regular citizens don't really have access to cryptocurrency. But some of their party members do, and they're the ones with the real money anyways, and they might want to diversify into other assets that aren't as affected by the Chinese government, which would actually include crypto. There's obviously like property stimuluses as well. And employment support. The government has rolled out employment support measures to help stabilize the job market, which is horrible in China. And there's also tax relief. Most of those will be for businesses because China's tax policy is kind of weird. You never really see it on your payroll like in America. They just like kind of take some and they don't really tell you. That's kind of how it works. And the only thing that's like kind of transparent is the big businesses paying taxes. Like you just get a paycheck and whatever your paycheck is, you get it. But they've already taken some off the top. You just don't really know how much it is. So hopefully this will lead to a significant jump and it will pull up the global economy as well. And that's the Chinese stimulus. Now, those are the two major countries that are getting stimulus. Canada is working on a stimulus too. I heard it's mainly just giving more maple syrup. I jest. But Canada is also working on a stimulus, but their economy is significantly smaller, so I'm not really sure how much effect that'll have. I think most of the stimulus is actually to offset the tariff burden of the basically tariff war they're fighting with the United States. And of course, the United States is probably preparing a stimulus for next year. Donald Trump's mentioned it several times. He needs to buy some votes, especially for the midterms, so that's most likely going to happen. Add to that, the rates are possibly going to 1% or possibly 0% under Trump's new Fed chair that will take over in May of next year. Now, I know the Fed chair does not have full power over lowering interest rates, and obviously he's going to see if he does that, there's going to be a lot of pushback from the Fed governors. But if it's the Trump guy, he's going to try to push for as many rate cuts as possible. And you can see interest rates of 2%, 1%, possibly even 0%, especially if the economy starts falling apart, which it might actually start doing. That will release a lot of money, and that may have people going on a spending spree as well as a loaning spree, which would be very devastating for the future. But for the immediate future, we could actually see it actually coming up. Also, one thing we do know that's happening for certain is QT is actually ending. Yes, that's going to end in just a couple of days here. That will definitely be a welcome relief, a big welcome relief for many people. They'll stop sucking money out of circulation, out of the market, and they'll start putting some money back into the market. Hopefully, it's not quite QE. But QT ending, interest rates coming down, that's a big deal. People have been waiting for this for quite a while. Add to that, there's shadow repos, which means like the government's like rebuying like bonds and other assets. That's going to inject more liquidity into the market. Global liquidity is also pretty much at an all-time high. I think it's like 37.1 trillion. And Bitcoin always kind of goes up with global liquidity. So that, my friends, is very encouraging as a sign of the market turning up. And of course, we have to talk about the Trump tariffs could actually be declared illegal. Now, like I said, Canada is preparing a stimulus to kind of like counter the tariffs. If they declare it illegal, I think Canada is still going to go ahead with the stimulus because it'll take a while for that to actually work out. It'll cause a lot of chaos first if they're declared illegal. And Congress could actually, the Supreme Court could declare them illegal. And like the Chief Justice is very skeptical about Trump's power to actually impose taxes, which tariffs are considered taxes, upon other countries because that is sole discretion of Congress. Trump didn't want to go through Congress to do that because I don't think Congress would have actually agreed. So they actually might be declared illegal. Now, that's going to cause some trouble because we might have to pay some people back. He might actually just use that as an excuse to give us a better stimulus because, it's the American people that are paying the tariffs because it's American companies that are paying the import tariffs and they're passing the cost down to the American people. So he might use that as an excuse to give us even more of a stimulus, which definitely would pump the market. Now, like I said, the tariffs being illegal are going to cause some confusion at first. Not going to be great at first for the market. But towards like the mid-end of 2026, I think things are going to start settling down. And with no tariffs, the economy will do a lot better. And crypto could possibly boom with all this money coming to the economy. Remember, global liquidity is at is pretty much at a high with China, Japan, and the U.S. giving a stimulus, and other smaller economies like Canada giving a stimulus. With QE ending, shadow repos, rates in the United States possibly going to zero. That could actually provide a small window in time where the markets actually soar. And that's really all we need. We just need that small window in time where markets actually soar. So hopefully we can look for that window in time in 2026 where there's a lot of liquidity coming. People feel like they actually have some money because of the stimuluses, and they're not so stingy with their money in the investment markets. It'll crash catastrophically afterwards, but as long as we can take care of that window, take advantage of that window, and actually make a lot of money, you might actually be rich by the time things catastrophically crash. And you just got to get out before things catastrophically crash. Remember, you got to cash out. So that's why we should look bullish for 2026. Like and subscribe, hit the bell notifications button, and I will see you guys later.